Hello, BookTube. Just recently we saw that the latest Times Literary Supplement, the TLS, my favorite literary review, had a review of the movie The Holdovers that had a publicity still with Paul Giamatti in the Brattle Bookshop sale lot. One of the publicity stills for the movie is the two main characters in the Brattle sale lot, the used bookstore here in Boston that has a huge sale lot outside the shop. And when I saw that, I immediately thought, well, this is surely the first time that the sale lot has ever been in the TLS. Surely that is true. That'll never happen again. I think the Brattles were mentioned a couple of times, and maybe even the sale lot once, but not a picture. So I thought that was worthwhile to bring to the shop and show them, just show them that that was the case. And it was a fairly clear, fairly comfortable morning, first thing. I had a couple of other things that I could work into this errand, so I did that. I went to the Brattle Bookshop this morning, where there was a credit, a very generous credit from one of you. As long as you keep calling in credit, I will keep going back to the Brattle. Like I'm not going to go there anyway. So in addition to showing them that clip and giving them that clip and whatnot, and doing a couple of other things that I had to do, including a wonderful but troubling encounter with a dog owner who had two Vizsla. They were wonderful. They were siblings, obviously, and one of them was timid and one of them was very curious and outgoing, and neither of them were on leashes. And I was trying to be nice, but I told the owner the curious one would have come to me across a crowded street. And if I wasn't looking to stop him, then we'd all have suffered as a result of that. Your dog should be on leashes. You are not prepared for unexpected events. Simple as that. I'm sure they're well behaved, but you're not prepared for unexpected events. But anyway, that was not angry. There were no Wyatt Earp moments at all. It was just a wonderful trip, and I got, you'll never guess, a pile of books. I got a pile of books that I want to show you. So we'll start with the mass market paperbacks, including two. I've mentioned many times before that the Brattle, that the BookTube is always on my mind. When I'm there, BookTube's always on my mind anywhere. But BookTube events are always on my mind. We have one big one coming up, March Mystery Madness, but we also have others coming up. There's Historathon. There's No Place Like Rome. There's Homes is Where the Heart Is. And later on, there's June on the Range and Garb August. So I always have those things in mind when I'm out in the Brattle sale lot, poking around the books. So the first two are Westerns. Just ordinary dime store Westerns that I got them and I will chuck them on the pile. I'm going to read all of these Westerns I've been getting. I'm going to read all of them during June on the Range. So the first one is by William Byron Mowry, and it's called Paradise Trail. And there's a New York Times blurb on the cover, the best novel Mowry has published thus far. The New York Times noticed this thing? Why am I doubtful? This is the cover. This sad sack's about to walk into an ambush with his spavined burrow. He's about to walk into an ambush. What have we got here? Traveling north for a Canadian vacation, Gary Fraser picks up a companion who wrecks a mail truck, killing the driver and guard and framing Gary for the crime. Gary manages to escape from the Mounties and flee to British Columbia. There he meets a prospector and a lovely girl who seems to be on the way to happiness until he clashes with Hugh Ludlow, who seeks to rule the entire Segalia Valley. Given 24 hours to clear out, Gary stays on and fights for his life against Ludlow's outlaw crew, while an unceasing threat of capture by the Mounties looms in the background. So this is set in the Canadian Northwest. That's one of these older paperbacks that has this gauze on it. It's very annoying because it's going to flake off anyway. I usually just take it all the way off. These paperbacks I am not going to press them into service anywhere else. They are here with me forever. They're here with me for the rest of their lives. I wouldn't send this back to the Brattle or anything like that. So I'll just take the covering off it and read Paradise Trail on my own. I highly doubt that this was reviewed in the New York Times. I'm curious to know the detail behind that. Then the other Western that I got is by Max Brand, who I do know. I read a few of his. I don't think I've read this. I think I remember this cover. This is King of the Range. Death lurked, waiting for the loser. I think we can presume the loser will be the guy in the pink shirt. That's what he's doing in this novel, I have no idea. There was murderous force in his hands. Dunmore's life depended on his ability to drop a man without letting him make a sound. He jerked the outlaw closer till his face was a scant inch away. It was Chelton. Oscar Chelton was one of Jim Tankerton's strong-arm boys. His instructions were to kill this man who had invaded their mountain stronghold, but Carrick Dunmore knew a few tricks, the kind that made a gun appear in his hand at lightning speed. Carrick meant to stay alive at least long enough to settle his score with Tankerton personally. And this is an old pocketbook from when they had this little logo. And these old pocketbooks really hold together. They really do. So this one, I actually don't worry that this will fall apart when I read it. I bet it'll be good for a couple of Junes on the range. Then we have science fiction. A little science fiction novel that was written in about a month. And it's been reprinted, and I've read it a few times. Never seen this cover. I'm happy to get it. The reason that I grimace is not because of the book, which I'm sure I will enjoy rereading, but because where is the giant science fiction event on Book 2? Where is the June on the Range? Where is the March Mystery Madness for science fiction? I want it to exist. I want to will it into existence. I can't make the event myself. I am obnoxious and disliked on BookTube. I am hated. I am an outcast, a leper, a pariah. So I can't make the event myself. I'm happy to cheer it on from somewhere else, but some science fiction fan ought to make a big, broad interest, non-pedantic science fiction event. But anyway, I found science fiction. Is this the only science? No, this isn't the only science fiction. One other bit of science fiction that I'm very happy to find. This is by C.M. Kornbluth and Judith Merrill. And it's Gunnar Cade. It's the story of a brutal man in a brutal future who has to basically learn compassion. It's not a long thing at all. It'll take you an hour to read. And it pretty much took the two of these an hour to write. They wrote it literally collaboratively. Literary collaborations always work differently, depending on who the collaboration is. But these two just swapped off chapters, swapped off sections, swapped off chunks of pages, and liberally rewrote the stuff that each other had written to come up with this. In record time, in no time at all. But two really creative people. Judith Merrill was wonderful. Kornbluth was weird. But they're both really, really creative people. So it's worth rereading. I didn't have a copy of this, so I'm glad to have a paperback. Then a murder mystery from March Mystery Madness. I have a couple of murder mysteries here. This one is a little bit of a variation for me, something that I was curious about, but I wasn't going to spend more than $1. Today I bought it for $1. This is Reginald Hill, the mystery author of the D.L. and Pascoe mysteries that I strongly recommend. But this is not D.L. and Pascoe mystery. This is another character of his, Joe Sixsmith. This is Born Guilty. I think this is the second Sixsmith novel, or maybe the third. I've never read any. The only thing I've ever read by this author has been his D.L. and Pascoe mysteries, which I loved. So this will be an excellent chance to see what I love about him. Is it that I love D.L. and Pascoe, or is it that I love this author? I have a feeling that I love this author. I have a feeling that I would love anything that he writes, even with a really, really bad cover. That is a 1980s cover if ever I saw one. Is that right? Is this a 1980s release? 1994. All right, close enough. Close enough. That's just awful. But interesting to me, this is not in very good shape. Oddly enough, this was made 50 years after this. And yet this will hold up better. I can already feel that this thing's going to blow apart into a million pieces when I read it. Then we have a murder mystery author and character that I've never heard before. This is To Perish in Penzance. And the character is Dorothy Martin. And the author is Jean Dams. And then we have a floral hat. Is that a hat? Yeah, it's a floral hat in a little cove. While Dorothy Martin loves nearly everything about England, especially her new husband, retired police detective Alan Nesbitt, she could do without September's incessant rain. The lure of the sunshine of Cornwall's picturesque coast and an unsolved mystery proved too tempting to resist. 30 years earlier, the murder of a beautiful woman had become Alan's first homicide investigation. The case, which was never solved, haunts him still. Upon their arrival, Dorothy and Alan meet a young woman who, it turns out, is the daughter of that long-ago victim. Okay, so little bit of English cozy, I'm assuming. They're not spring chickens, so they can't go punching people. Then we have a mystery author that I know and really like. I got this for this. The cover is really neat, but this is The Crabtree Affair. This is Inspector Appleby by Michael Innes, the author writing under the name of Michael Innes. Enjoying a hike through the English countryside, Lady Appleby and her policeman husband, Sir John, are staggered to discover the body of old Seth Crabtree face down in an unused canal. Not an hour before, they had engaged the elderly rustic in conversation in the local inn yard. Now he was dead, but who had killed him, and why? They just happened to be on the scene. I'll definitely take it, and you can see from the slant here that this was loved. Somebody read this and pored over it and loved it. You can just picture them sitting in the lunchroom at work, ignoring all their coworkers in order to get to the end of this thing. So March Mystery Madness, I am well stocked for March Mystery Madness, so I can always use more. There's always a thrill to buying paperback mysteries. I always love that. Then some trade paperbacks here. The first one is a series that I have not read. This is John Grisham. These are his Theodore Boone books that I have not read. I've read a lot by this author, but not this whole series. This is Theodore Boone, The Abduction. Half the man, twice the lawyer. And this is, let's see here, when his best friend April disappears from her bedroom in the middle of the night, no one, not even Theo Boone, has the answers. As fear ripples through his small hometown and the police hit dead ends, it's up to Theo to use his legal knowledge and investigative skills to chase down the truth and save April. Filled with the page-turning suspense that makes John Grisham the undisputed master of the legal thriller, Theodore Boone's trials and triumphs will keep readers guessing until the very end. I guarantee that won't be true. That particular claim. I guarantee that is false. But I'm curious. I don't know about this cover. This might be a UK production. Yeah, this is hotter. This is a UK production. It says half the man, twice the lawyer, and the back cover is a little vague, but isn't Theodore Boone a child? Isn't he like 15 years old? Something like that? Is that why this character kind of looks like Tom Holland on the cover there? I don't know. And is that what half the man means? What a weird way to describe a teenager. But anyway, I've never read a Theodore Boone novel. To the best of my knowledge, I never have. I don't think I read the first one. I don't know how long. I wonder if this will tell me how long in the series this is. No, it doesn't. It doesn't tell me that. But I'm interested to try it, definitely. Then this next one is by Ian Mortimer, and I have read this before. I've really, really enjoyed it. This is his book, The Greatest Traitor, a biography of Roger Mortimer, who deposed Edward II, and was a weird, charismatic, compelling, appalling figure in English history. So I know him. I know this book. I haven't reread this in quite some time. I know this book, and I also know him from studies of Edward II and Edward III. So this will be fascinating to reread. I don't know that I'll get to it right away. I'm just glad to have it again. That's all. Same thing with this next one. I've had this next one, and I have this. What do we got here? A little bit of bubbles, a little bit of wrinkling. You need some peeling as well. I've had this before in trade paperback, and I also have an ebook. So I don't particularly need it, but when I saw it for $1, I missed having it as a trade paperback. Maybe that's a dumb idea. Maybe I'll get rid of it. But this is edited by Carol Greenberg, and this is Enterprise Logs. And it is a group of short stories set aboard 6 different incarnations of ships known as Enterprise. So a sailing vessel, the USS Enterprise, the aircraft carrier, and then some different iterations of the Starship Enterprise. Captain Pike, Captain Kirk, Captain Picard. These are up and down. The stories in here are up and down. Naturally, my favorite one is by Diane Carey, but she wrote a couple that are in here, and I love them. I love virtually everything that's in here. There's one story in here, if I remember correctly. Peter David writes a story about poor Captain Harriman, the captain of the Enterprise B, where in their maiden voyage, Captain Kirk is lost. Is that this book? That must be. Where else would that thing appear? Yes, Peter David, Captain John Harriman is in here. And A.C. Crispin has Captain Spock, just a little training cruise. And Diane Duane is in here with Captain Will Decker. You have long to be captain. So these are fascinating. They're on a little on the uneven side, but they are fascinating. I love it as a Star Trek book. Wish that Star Trek books like this were still being made. This kind of inventiveness. Then we have trade paperback. This will not hold up. I will read the parts of it that I love, but I'm expecting that it will just fall apart. This is Moses at Us, the great Moses at Us. This is Ancillary to Classical Learning. This has a lot of bloviating at the beginning, but then it settles down into him just discussing various classical authors, and those are wonderful. And I don't know, it's been a long time since I read the bloviating at the beginning. Maybe I will like it more. But I wasn't going to turn it down for $1, obviously. Then this next one is also BookTube related. Some of you, I'm sure that all of you watch Michael K. Vaughan's channel, and just recently Michael K. Vaughan got promotional mail, from Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated. I think I speak for everyone on BookTube when I say it's about time. He has made more Edgar Rice Burroughs readers than anyone on BookTube, anyone on YouTube. It's about time he was on their list for a little box of goodies now and then. That would be great. It wouldn't do them a whole lot of harm to hire him. Put him on salary and let him have a free hand in how to make Edgar Rice Burroughs a hit again. Burroughs is not right now a hit again, and he could fix that. I'm sure that his first 10 ideas would be great. But he was holding up a whole bunch of books from that box of goodies, and some of them really appealed to me. They're not cheap on the Edgar Rice Burroughs website, and you can't find them anywhere else. You can't get them at your bookstore. And I remember looking at the items that he was holding up and thinking, those are pretty tempting, but it would be the mother of all blasphemies for me to go onto a website and get out the old credit card and pay for a book. This whole Brattle book haul is a blasphemy. I just got a gigantic stack of books free in the mail today. So this is all a blasphemy, but going to Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated and buying one of those things would have been an extra blasphemy. And that was too bad, because some of them appealed to me, but I never see them. You never see them used. Collectors get them. So what happened today? I saw one at the Brattle. I grabbed it right away. This is Beyond the Farthest Star, and this is the Edgar Rice Burroughs official version of this novel. Restored edition, because the original edition, I have that little Ace mass market paperback. It's actually smaller than a mass market paperback that any self-respecting science fiction and Edgar Rice Burroughs fan has. That little Ace paperback. Same cover. Was badly handled. It just manhandled by a series of different editors. Huge amounts of rewrites. If I'd been Edgar Rice Burroughs, I'd have withdrawn the manuscript. He didn't do that, so the book that you're getting is wildly different from the one that he actually typed out. And this is that restored edition. Takes all that ham-handed editorial interference, sometimes line by line, and just gets rid of it. Restores the original. I imagine this thing has an essay explaining that. Is that right? This is illustrated throughout by Roy Krenkel. The cover art is by Frank Frazetta. Or is it Michael Whalen? Paul DiFilippo does an introduction to this thing, and I'm sure that will explain everything. Great. Fantastic. This is a displaced hero story, like Carson of Venus or John Carter of Mars. This is a World War II pilot who gets misplaced to an alien fantasy world. They give him a name, and it sticks, and he has all sorts of adventures. If Burroughs had lived longer, or if he hadn't been distracted or by one thing or another, including a war, he would probably have made a series out of this. We might have a whole bunch. It's still really diverting reading. It really is. And now I have the version that he wrote, which is great. And it would have been the thing I wanted from that Edgar Rice Burroughs haul. So just the book gods just looking after me, which is wonderful. Then we have a collected volume. I have a whole bunch of these old hardcovers that take a handful of works by one author and put it between covers. And this is an author I love. This is Edward Rose Snow. This is a book of his called Disaster at Sea. And it is a collection of his books, of his maritime books. Maritime Mysteries and Dramatic Disasters of New England, Sea Disasters and Inland Catastrophes, and Pirates, Shipwrecks, and Historic Chronicles. All in one volume. With the cover there being, as I'm sure any of you know, especially if I've dragged you through the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, that is Watson and the Shark. Painting that dramatizes an actual shark attack. You've got the shark, and there you've got Watson, only he's naked. he's about to die. And keep in mind that Copley never saw a shark. He had no idea what an attacking shark looked like. That's not that bad for a bull shark. Um, this author did this for his whole career. He wrote about maritime stuff for his whole career. Whole shelf worth of books. I only have one at the moment. The Romance of Boston Bay is the only one that I have. And I want this, something like this, a collection like this. Who is this publisher? Avenel. They did a whole bunch of these. They looked just like this. They did a whole bunch. The horizontal lines there, the jagged artwork on the spine. They did a whole bunch of these for a whole bunch of authors. I used to pass these things up with my nose in the air. In book catalogs, in used bookstores, I used to pass them up all the time. And now I wish I had them all, because they're really handy and really good, and a lot of the things that are done in these Avenel collected volumes are not available as ebooks in any way. So I was very happy to find this. It's always wonderful to curl up with Edward Brosnow, no matter what he wants to talk about. Then this next one is a historical novel. It's weird, a little bit surreal, and also bitingly intelligent. It's by Margaret Lawrence, and it's an Elizabethan historical novel called Rowan Oak. That's all about the Elizabethan expeditions to the New World. When did this come out? 2009. I reviewed this when it came out. God only knows where that review is. God only knows. 2009, I assume it would be for Open Letters, but I don't even know if it could be found. I reviewed this. It was also, if I remember correctly, it made it onto my year-end list for 2009. But despite you hearing all the time that the internet never forgets, people have a hard time finding my stuff on the internet. I don't know if this is findable. I guess I would have to ask around, maybe look around myself. But this was really good, and I have not seen it since. I got a copy from the publisher, and I haven't seen it since. So gladly, well due for a reread. I mean, that's a long time. That's going on, 15 years? Yeah, that's 15 years. That's a long time. My God, 2009 doesn't feel 15 years ago. Then this next one, a little divot missing from the front, the dust jacket, but I'll ignore that. I'll try to fix it and then put a covering over this. This is Robert Lacey, who I really like. He's a really talented writer. I don't know that this is the final word on the subject, but I don't need much of a final word on this subject. This is his biography of the Earl of Essex, the paramour, I guess, in a weird kind of way, of an aging Queen Elizabeth I. He disappointed her in Ireland, he disappointed her at home, and then finally, to continue disappointing her and also just to save his own skin, he launched a coup against her. Wanted to raise the city, wanted to bring out cannons, wanted to bring out arms. And it didn't work. It was thwarted, it failed, and when attempts were made to prosecute him, he said that would be very unfair. Just very unfair. The country will be in bedlam if you do that. The country won't stand for it. It'd be very unfair. And he was allowed to run for King of England in the following year. Oh, no, wait. No, he was arrested and executed. Yeah, he launched a coup against the government. He was arrested and executed. And in fact, he was butchered. He was butchered when he was executed on Tower Hill. He was butchered. It was not a clean thing at all, and he deserved worse than what he got. His enemies were watching. Most of his neutral people were watching. He got the fate that should be yours if you launch a coup against the government, especially in peacetime. A good government, a government that's doing well by most of its people. That people who launch a coup against such a thing should not be granted complete plenary immunity. In fact, they should be executed for what they did. He led a fascinating life. It was a short life, but it was a fascinating life up to that moment. It's no mystery at all how this book ends. But I haven't read this in, oh my God. Well, I know I say it on Brattle sale halls all the time, but I haven't read this since it came out, which has to be 50 years ago. In 1971. Oh my God. So that's been a long time. There's a little divot missing there. I'll put something up there to sort of block that a little, and then I'll put a covering over this and then give it a read. I'm actually oddly curious to revisit this. I know that I always say in every Brattle haul that one of these books is going to make it onto the nightstand for that night. And I definitely want to say that about this Brattle haul, but that's going to be a little difficult considering the high quality of the mail that I got today. Like I was saying, this is all a blasphemy. It's ridiculous that I'm showing you a gigantic stack of books that I got at the Brattle when I got a gigantic stack of books in the mail for free today. It's ridiculous that I'm doing both, but I can't help myself. And you can't help yourself either. So, all right, so none of your high horse judgment. But then we'll finish up. We'll finish up with this last thing. I found this just a perfect hardcover of this, and every time I have this, I get rid of it. I send it out to people who just can't find it, and I actually want a trade paperback of this. I think I have a trade paperback of this, of a particular kind and make that I really like. But the trade paperback might be easier to read, but it isn't good for consulting or for heavy rereading, much less for tipping in articles. So I got the hardcover of Charles MacDonald's A Time for Trumpets, his big, enormous book about the Battle of the Bulge. The trade paperback doesn't look anything like this, but this is a terrific book about really an amazing little moment in World War II, at the end of the conflict in the Western theater. A little fillip of a story at the end of that saga that reads like some novelist made it up. It really does, until you read into it, and boy, oh boy, it is endlessly fascinating. I'm a little bit on the bias side here, but I think it's the Battle of the Bulge is absolutely fascinating. And I found this, and it's just a perfect hardcover. It looks like the day that it came off the presses, so I grabbed it. I had credit, thanks to one of you. I had credit, so I was very. Thank you very much. First of all, the one who sent that credit, but I had a little bit freer hand. Of course, if you call in credit to the Brattle, I will go back. So feel free. Very little credit goes a long way when you're dealing with a bargain lot. But that is our Brattle haul. Lots and lots of good stuff here. Let me see if we can do a Steve Pyramid here. We have A Time for Trumpets. Well worth a reread. I don't know why, but the Earl of Essex book is calling to me the most, but I know that if I started this, I would just sink into it. A classic of World War II history. And then we have Robert, Earl of Essex, by Robert Lacey. Books you may know. You may know his book Majesty, for instance. We have Rowan Oak by Margaret Lawrence. Amazing to see this out in the wild. We have Edward Rowe Snow, a collection of Edward Rowe Snow's maritime stories. We have Beyond the Farthest Star by Edgar Rice Burroughs in the restored Edgar Rice Burroughs Incorporated edition in paperback. We have Ansel at a Classical Reading by Moses Hadas. Just a bunch of ruminations on classical authors. We have Enterprise logs. All the ships named Enterprise. Some adventure that each one of them had. The Greatest Trader by Roger Mortimer, by the ominously named Ian Mortimer. We have Theodore Boone. The Abduction. I have to ask Bill Rittenberg, or maybe just look this up and read up on why is the UK trade paperback going out of its way to avoid telling you the age of the protagonist here. I don't know what that means. Half the man. Doesn't Alex Rider sell in the UK? He's half the man. Then what else do we have? Oh, right, the mass market paperbacks. We have The Crabtree Affair by Michael Ings, who I really like. We have To Perish in Penzance by a new mystery author to me. Never read anything by that author. We have Born Guilty by Reginald Hill. I have read this author, but never this series. Never about this character. We have Gunnercade. Minor science fiction, a dorky, grubby kind of science fiction fan favorite. And then 2 more Westerns to add to my pile for June, which will be here. It's right around the corner. We have Paradise Trail and King of the Range. Fantastic. So those 2 definitely are not going on the pile for tonight. Those are going to get tossed on the Western pile and not touched. And I guess I have sufficient self-control, so the other 3 mass market paperbacks, the murder mysteries, I can wait until March. I don't have to read those right away. So I don't really know what will go on the list. Oddly, I am tempted by the Earl of Essex book. I don't know why. I know everything there is to know about the Earl of Essex life. It'd be the way that Lacey writes. That would be it. But it's possible that the Battle of the Bulge book will take over. It's possible that will be the thing that's added to the list. I have a lot to read tonight. A lot. But anyway, that's a Brattle trip. I haven't gone yet this week. It felt weird to stay away for so long. Now that I've gone, I'm all stocked up with books. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Are you digging, baby? You gonna dig at your bedding? Huh? Is that what you're gonna do? You're so crucial, baby. You're so crucial, baby. You gonna dig at your bedding? Maybe make yourself comfortable, huh? They're all your fans, baby. They think you're the cutest thing. They do. They think you're the cutest thing. You know why? Because you are the cutest thing. That's why. Hi, baby. How you doing? Who's the baby? She's not sure she's sold on the rest of you. I thought she was going to go digging. Oh, she is. She is going to go digging. Oh, goodness. Oh, there you go, baby. Oh, what are you doing, huh? What are you doing? Oh, there you go. Oh. All right, there we go. You got your freedom viewing for the day. I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you.